The envelope sat on my desk like a bomb waiting to detonate. Inside was a check for $10,000 made out to me, signed by Victoria Hartwell, CEO of Hartwell Industries, and one of the most powerful women in Seattle. My hands trembled as I read the letter attached to it for the third time. Dear Maya, I have a proposition that may seem unconventional, but I assure you my intentions are sincere. My daughter Emma has been struggling since moving back home after college. She's isolated herself, pushing away old friends and refusing to engage with anyone new. As her mother, I'm desperate to help her. I've noticed you at the art gallery openings I attend. You're kind, artistic, and exactly the type of person I believe could help Emma rediscover her joy. I'm asking you to befriend her. Spend time with her, introduce her to your world, help her find herself again. The enclosed check is not payment for friendship. That would be insulting to both of you. Consider it compensation for your time and a commission for future artwork. All I ask is that you give her a chance and that you never tell her about this arrangement. Please consider this carefully. My daughter needs someone genuine in her life. I should have torn up the check. I should have called Victoria and told her that friendship can't be bought. But I didn't, because $10,000 meant I could finally pay off my student loans. It meant my studio rent was covered for 6 months. It meant I could actually buy quality art supplies instead of stretching every tube of paint until it was empty, and maybe, just maybe, I told myself I could actually help someone. That's how I ended up standing outside a coffee shop in Capitol Hill on a rainy Saturday morning, waiting to accidentally meet Emma Hartwell. I spotted her through the window before I went inside. She sat alone in the corner, hunched over a laptop, dark hair falling across her face like a curtain. She wore an oversized black sweater and had earbuds in, clearly signaling to the world that she wanted to be left alone. Everything about her posture screamed isolation. I almost turned around and left. This felt wrong, orchestrated and manipulative. But then she looked up, just for a moment, and I saw her face. There was something haunting in her dark eyes. Something lonely that I recognized because I'd seen it in my own mirror often enough. I bought my coffee and, following Victoria's suggestion, chose the table next to Emma's. I pulled out my sketchbook, trying to look natural, trying not to think about the fact that I was being paid to be here for 20 minutes. Nothing happened. I sketched the barista, the rain-soaked street outside, anything to keep my hands busy. Then I heard her voice. Is that charcoal? I looked up. Emma had removed one earbud and was looking at my drawing with genuine interest. Yeah, compressed charcoal. It's messy, but I love the depth you can get with it. I turned my sketchbook slightly so she could see better. It's beautiful. She leaned closer, and I caught the scent of her shampoo, something floral and clean. The way you've captured the light on the wet pavement. It almost looks like it's moving. Thank you. I felt my cheeks warm. I'm Maya, by the way. Emma. She gave me a small smile and something in my chest tightened. Sorry, I don't usually interrupt strangers. It's just, I used to draw. I haven't in a while, but seeing your work made me remember how much I loved it. Why'd you stop? Her smile faded. Life got complicated. I guess I convinced myself I didn't have time for things that made me happy. We talked for another hour. She told me she'd graduated with a degree in architecture, but felt suffocated by her mother's expectations to join the family business. I told her about my struggles as an artist, carefully omitting the part about the $10,000 check that was currently in my bank account. When we finally parted ways, Emma asked if I'd be at the coffee shop the following week. I said yes, ignoring the guilt that twisted in my stomach. Over the next month, our coffee shop meetings became routine. Emma started bringing her old sketchbooks, and I watched her slowly rediscover the artist she'd been. She had talent, real talent, especially for architectural drawings that blended technical precision with artistic vision. My mother thinks art is a hobby, she said one afternoon, her pencil moving across the page. Something nice to have, but not serious. Not like running a company. What do you think? I asked. She looked up at me, and I saw frustration and longing warring in her expression. I think I've spent my whole life trying to be what she wants. I'm 24 years old and I don't even know who I am when I'm not trying to please her. I wanted to tell her the truth then. I wanted to confess that her mother had hired me, that our friendship had started as a transaction. But I didn't. I told myself it was because I didn't want to hurt her. But the truth was darker than that. I was starting to care about her, and I was terrified of losing what we'd built. We started spending time outside the coffee shop. I brought her to my studio, a cramped space in a converted warehouse that smelled like paint and turpentine. She ran her fingers along the canvases lining the walls, studying each one with an intensity that made me nervous. These are incredible. Maya, you're really talented. You sound surprised. I teased. No, I guess I'm wondering why you're spending time with me. You're this amazing artist with your own studio and your own life. I'm just a mess trying to figure out what I'm doing. I stepped closer to her. Close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in her dark eyes. You're not a mess. You're someone brave enough to admit she wants something different than what's expected of her. That takes courage. She held my gaze for a long moment, and I felt something shift between us. Something that had been building since that first day in the coffee shop. Something that scared me because it felt too real to be part of any arrangement. It was Emma who made the first move. Though neither of us acknowledged it as such at the time, we were in my studio late one Friday night, working on our respective projects. She'd been designing a community art center, something she'd never show her mother. She said, and I was finishing a commission piece. The radio played soft indie music and rain drummed against the skylight above us. Maya? Her voice was quiet. Can I ask you something? Of course. Have you ever felt like you were living two different lives? Like there's the person everyone sees, and then there's who you actually are? I set down my paintbrush. What do you mean? She closed her sketchbook and turned to face me fully. I mean, growing up, I always knew I was different. I didn't fit into the boxes people expected. My mother wanted me to be a certain way, professional, composed, traditional. To date the right men, marry well, take over the company someday. She laughed bitterly. But I never wanted any of that. The men especially. My heart began to race. Emma, I've never told anyone this. Not my mother, not my old friends from college. But I think you might understand. She looked at me with such vulnerability that I felt something crack open in my chest. I'm gay, Maya. I've known since I was 15. But I've never said it out loud to another person until right now. I crossed the space between us and took her hand. Thank you for trusting me with that. You don't seem surprised. I guess I had an idea. Gaydar and all that. I smiled gently. For what it's worth, I came out when I was 17. My parents were surprisingly cool about it, which I know makes me lucky. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I can't tell my mother. She has all these expectations, all these plans for my life. If she knew, she might surprise you, I said, even as guilt churned in my stomach. Victoria knew I was gay. That's part of why she'd approached me. Did she suspect about her daughter? Had she hired me hoping I'd somehow cure Emma? Or had she genuinely wanted her daughter to have someone who would understand? Emma wiped her eyes. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm just glad I have you. This friendship. It's the most real thing in my life. I pulled her into a hug, holding her as she cried quietly against my shoulder. And I hated myself for the lie that sat between us, growing larger every day. After that night, everything changed. Emma became more open, more vibrant. She started dressing in clothes that felt like her, less corporate polish, more artistic expression. She cut her hair shorter, which made her look both younger and more confident. She smiled more, laughed more freely, and I fell in love with her. It wasn't sudden. It was a gradual slide into territory I'd never meant to enter. It was the way she bit her lower lip when she concentrated on a drawing. It was how she remembered that I took my coffee with oat milk and always ordered it that way. When she arrived first. It was her terrible jokes and her infectious laugh and the way she looked at me. Sometimes like I was something precious. We started meeting more often, 3, 4, 5 times a week. We'd wander through art galleries and vintage bookstores. She'd come to my studio and paint beside me, creating abstract pieces that grew bolder and more confident with each passing week. I taught her how to layer colors, how to trust her instincts, how to let the art speak for itself. One evening, about 3 months after we'd met, we sat on the floor of my studio sharing takeout Chinese food. Emma had paint smudged on her cheek, and she was laughing about something that had happened at the part-time job she'd taken at an independent bookstore, much to her mother's dismay. She keeps calling it my little rebellion phase, Emma said, shaking her head, as if working a job I actually enjoy is some kind of teenage angst. How are things with her? I asked carefully. I'd been receiving monthly emails from Victoria, brief updates asking how Emma was doing. I kept my responses vague, uncomfortable with the entire situation, tense. She doesn't understand why I'm not interested in the family business. She thinks I'm wasting my degree, my potential. Emma set down her food and looked at me seriously. But here's the thing, for the first time in my life, I don't care. Because I'm actually happy. And that's because of you, Emma. I mean it, Maya. Before I met you, I was drowning. I felt like I had to choose between being who my mother wanted and being alone forever. But you showed me there's another option. You showed me that I can be myself and still have people in my life who care about me. She reached out and took my hand. You saved me. The guilt nearly choked me. I'm not some hero, Emma. I'm just, you're everything to me, she interrupted softly. Then, before I could process what was happening, she leaned forward and kissed me. Her lips were soft and tasted like the jasmine tea she'd been drinking. My brain screamed at me to stop, to pull away, to finally tell her the truth. But my heart had other ideas. I kissed her back, my hand coming up to cup her cheek, feeling like I was falling and flying at the same time when we finally broke apart. Emma was smiling a real, genuine smile that lit up her entire face. "I've wanted to do that for weeks," she confessed. "Me too," I admitted. Because that at least was true. We started dating, though we didn't call it that at first. Emma wasn't ready to be public, not with her mother, not with anyone. We kept our relationship private, which suited the guilty part of me that still couldn't face what I'd done. Those next 2 months were the happiest of my life. Emma stayed over at my apartment most nights. We'd cook together, painting together, talk until 3 in the morning about everything and nothing. She was brilliant and funny and kind. She saw the world in ways that constantly surprised me. She'd begun designing in earnest, creating plans for community spaces that were both functional and beautiful. She talked about maybe applying to graduate school, about pursuing architecture on her own terms rather than joining her mother's real estate development company. "I want to design spaces that bring people together," she told me one night, as we lay tangled together in my bed. "Libraries, community centers, affordable housing that doesn't look institutional. Spaces that acknowledge that beauty matters, that everyone deserves to live and work in places that inspire them." "You should do it," I said, running my fingers through her hair. "You're talented enough. More than talented enough. My mother will lose her mind. Your mother loves you. She'll come around." Emma propped herself up on one elbow to look at me. "I need to tell her about us. About me being gay, about you. I can't keep hiding this part of my life." My stomach dropped. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" "No, but I'm tired of living in fear. And besides," she smiled and kissed me gently, "I want to be able to tell people I'm in love with you." "You love me?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Of course I do. How could I not? You're brilliant and talented and patient. You saw me when I was at my lowest and you didn't run away. You helped me find myself again." She traced a finger along my jawline. "I love you, Maya Chen, completely." I should have told her the truth then. I should have confessed everything, the check, the arrangement, all of it. But I was a coward. Instead, I pulled her close and whispered, "I love you too." It was the truest and most dishonest thing I'd ever said. The text from Victoria came on a Tuesday afternoon. "We need to talk. My office, tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'd been dreading this moment since Emma and I had kissed. I knew Victoria was still receiving my vague monthly updates, but I'd been avoiding any real conversation with her. Now I had no choice. Her office was everything Emma had described: imposing, elegant, designed to intimidate. Victoria sat behind a massive desk, looking every inch the powerful CEO. But when she gestured for me to sit, I saw the worry lines around her eyes. "Emma seems much better," she said without preamble. "Happier, more confident. You've done what I asked." "Mrs. Hartwell, Victoria, please." She leaned back in her chair. "I'm grateful to you, Maya. Truly, my daughter was in a dark place, and you helped her find her way out. That's worth far more than $10,000. About that," I took a deep breath, "I need to return the money. This has gone beyond what we originally discussed." Her eyebrows rose. "Has it? Emma and we're together. We're in a relationship." To my surprise, Victoria smiled a small, knowing smile. "I suspected as much. You're not angry?" "Angry? Maya, I hired you specifically because I thought you might be good for my daughter. Because you're gay, yes, but also because you're kind and artistic and exactly the type of person I hoped Emma would connect with." She paused. "What I didn't anticipate was that you'd fall in love with each other. But I can't say I'm disappointed." I stared at her, confused. "I don't understand. You knew Emma was gay?" "A mother knows her child." Emma thought she was hiding it. But I saw the signs years ago, the way she looked at certain classmates, her disinterest in dating the boys I introduced her to. I just didn't know how to talk to her about it. Victoria's composed mask cracked slightly. "I've made many mistakes with my daughter. I pushed her too hard, expected too much. When she came home after graduation so depressed and isolated, I realized I was losing her entirely. So you hired me." "I hired you to be her friend, to show her that she didn't have to live up to my expectations or anyone else's, to help her find herself." Victoria met my eyes. "The fact that you've become more than friends, that's something that happened organically, isn't it? Real feelings, real connection?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Everything between Emma and me is real. I love her." "Then keep the money. Use it to support your art, your career. All I ask is that you continue to be honest with her from this point forward." My throat tightened. "She doesn't know about the original arrangement." I gathered as much. Victoria's expression hardened slightly. "You need to tell her, Maya, soon. The longer you wait, the worse it will be when she finds out. And she will find out. Secrets always come to light." I planned to tell Emma that weekend. I rehearsed the words 100 times, trying to find a way to explain that wouldn't destroy everything we'd built. But as it turned out, I didn't get the chance to tell her on my terms. We were at my apartment when Emma's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "It's my mother." "Give me a second." She stepped into the other room, and I could hear the murmur of her voice but not the words. Then the tone changed sharp, disbelieving. The volume increased. "What do you mean you hired her? What does that even mean?" My blood turned to ice. Emma came back into the room holding her phone, her face white with shock. "My mother just told me something. But it doesn't make sense, so I need you to explain it to me. I need you to tell me she's wrong." "Emma, she said she paid you. She said she gave you $10,000 to befriend me." Her voice shook. "Tell me that's not true." I stood up, my hands trembling. "Let me explain." "Oh my God." She took a step back, her eyes filling with tears. "It is true, everything. Our meeting at the coffee shop, our friendship, all of it was fake?" "No." "Emma, please listen." "How much?" she demanded. "How much did my mother pay you to pretend to care about me?" "It wasn't like that." "Yes, she gave me money initially, but that was before I knew you. Before any of this, before you manipulated me, before you made me fall in love with you." She was crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. "Was sleeping with me part of the arrangement? Did she pay extra for that?" "Emma, that's not fair. What we have is really real. Nothing about this was real. You were paid to be my friend. Everything that happened after that is tainted by that lie. Don't you see that?" She grabbed her bag, shoving her things into it with shaking hands. "Please don't leave. Let me explain everything." "There's nothing to explain. You took money from my mother to manipulate me. You let me trust you, let me fall in love with you, all while keeping this massive lie between us." She headed for the door, then turned back. "The worst part is, I finally thought I'd found someone who loved me for me. Not for my mother's money or connections, just me. But you're exactly like everyone else. I'm just a transaction to you." "That's not true." "I love you, Emma. I love you so much." "Don't." She held up a hand, her voice breaking. "Don't say that word to me. You don't get to say that after what you've done." Then she was gone, the door slamming behind her with a finality that echoed through my empty apartment. I tried calling Emma dozens of times over the next few days. She blocked my number. I went to the bookstore where she worked, but her manager said she'd quit. I even tried going to Victoria's house, but the gate was closed and no one answered the intercom. I'd never felt so helpless, so desperate. I'd ruined everything. A week after Emma left, I received a letter. My hands shook as I opened it, recognizing her handwriting. "Maya, I'm writing this because I need to say things I can't say to your face without falling apart. I understand, intellectually, that my mother put you in an impossible position. I understand that you probably did care about me, that the feelings became real. But understanding something intellectually and being able to forgive it emotionally are two different things. Every memory we have together is now contaminated by the knowledge that it started with a lie. When I think about that first day in the coffee shop, I can't see a chance encounter anymore. I see a setup. When I remember telling you I was gay, one of the most vulnerable moments of my life, I have to wonder if you already knew. If my mother had briefed you, I fell in love with you because I thought you saw me. The real me, not the person my mother wanted me to be. But how can I trust that when you were literally working for her? I need space and time to figure out who I am without either you or my mother's influence. I'm moving to Portland to stay with my aunt. I'm going to apply to architecture school there and start over. I don't hate you, Maya. Part of me wishes I did. It would be easier. But I don't. I just can't be with someone I can't trust. I hope you find happiness. I hope your art thrives. And I hope someday you understand why I had to leave." I read that letter so many times I memorized every word. Then I did the only thing I could do. I let her go. 6 months passed. I threw myself into my art with a desperate intensity, creating piece after piece that dealt with themes of guilt, loss, and fractured trust. My work became darker, more raw, and somehow it resonated. I had my first real gallery show and several pieces sold. I transferred the $10,000 from Victoria to a scholarship fund for LGBTQ+ artists. It didn't erase what I'd done, but it felt like a small act of atonement. Victoria called me once, a few weeks after Emma left. "She won't talk to me either," she said quietly. I tried to help her and instead I pushed her further away. "We both made mistakes, Maya. I should have told her from the beginning." I said that double quotes. "Yes, you should have. But you were young and broke and I put you in an impossible situation. I'm the one who should have known better." She paused. "For what it's worth, I do believe you loved my daughter. I saw it in the way you looked at her after we hung up." I cried for an hour straight. I didn't stalk Emma's social media. That felt like another violation, but mutual acquaintances mentioned that she was doing well in Portland. She'd been accepted into a competitive architecture program and was working part-time at an art supply store. She was apparently happier, healthier, finally becoming the person she was meant to be. I was glad for her. Even as my heart broke all over again, 10 months after Emma left, I had another gallery show. This one was bigger at a more prestigious gallery, featuring a collection I'd titled Fractured. Every piece dealt with broken relationships, secrets, and the things we do for love that end up destroying it. The centerpiece was a large mixed media work depicting two figures reaching for each other across a chasm, their hands never quite touching. I'd worked on it for months, pouring all my grief and regret into every brushstroke. The opening was well attended. Critics seemed to respond to the raw emotion in the work. I smiled and made small talk and tried not to think about how all of this the success. The recognition felt hollow without Emma to share it with. I was talking to a potential buyer when I saw her. Emma stood in front of the centerpiece, staring at it with an intensity I remembered from when she used to study my work in my studio. She'd let her hair grow out slightly and was wearing a leather jacket I'd never seen before. She looked good. More than good, she looked like herself. My heart hammered in my chest as I excused myself and walked over to her. I stopped a few feet away, afraid to get too close, afraid she'd bolt. "Hi," I said softly. She turned and I saw surprise flicker across her face. "Maya, I didn't know this was your show. I didn't know you were back in Seattle, just visiting my aunt." She saw the ad for the exhibit and suggested we come. Emma gestured at the painting. "It's beautiful. Devastating, but beautiful, thank you." We stood in awkward silence for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. "I'm sorry," I finally said. "I know I've said it before and I know it doesn't fix anything. But I need you to know that I am truly, deeply sorry for what I did. You deserved honesty from the beginning and I failed you." Emma was quiet for a long moment, her eyes still on the painting. "I've been angry at you for a long time. Angry at my mother too. Angry at the whole situation. You have every right to be. But here's the thing, being away from both of you gave me perspective. My mother hired you because she was desperate and misguided. You took the money because you were broke and struggling. Neither of you acted out of malice. You both, in your own flawed ways, actually cared about me." She finally looked at me, and I saw that her eyes were clear, no longer filled with the pain and betrayal I remembered. What happened between us became real. I know that now. The feelings were genuine, even if the beginning was manufactured. And you know what? That first day in the coffee shop might have been a setup, but I still chose to talk to you. I chose to keep showing up. I chose to share my art with you, to open up about being gay, to kiss you. Those were my choices. Emma, I'm not saying what you did was okay. The lie hurt me deeply and it took months of therapy to work through the trust issues it created. But I also had to acknowledge my own part in things. I let my mother control my life for so long that when you came along, I was desperate for connection. I probably would have fallen for anyone who showed me kindness and acceptance. That's not true, I said firmly. What we had was special, maybe, or maybe we were both getting something we needed from each other. And that clouded our judgment. She turned fully to face me. "I'm glad I came tonight. I needed to see you to realize that I've forgiven you. Not because what you did was okay, but because holding onto anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, probably not. But I'm not giving it for you, I'm giving it for me." She smiled slightly. "You helped me find myself, Maya, even if the circumstances were messed up. I'm in school pursuing my passion. I have friends and a life and confidence I never had before. That's partly because of you." My eyes filled with tears. "I'm so glad you're happy. You deserve everything good, so do you." She reached out and squeezed my hand briefly before letting go. "Make great art, Maya, and maybe next time, be honest from the start." "I will. I promise." She started to walk away, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I did love you. I really did. I loved you too," I said. "I still do." Emma gave me a sad smile. "I know. But some things can't be fixed, no matter how much we wish they could be. Take care of yourself." The email arrived on a Tuesday morning. Simple and direct in a way that made my heart skip. "Maya, I'm curating an exhibition for the Seattle Architecture Foundation on the intersection of art and urban design. Your work immediately came to mind. Would you be interested in collaborating? No pressure, I understand if this is too complicated." Emma Hartwell stared at the screen for 10 minutes, reading and rereading those few sentences. Emma was back in Seattle. Emma wanted to work with me. Emma had reached out first. My finger hovered over the delete button. The safe choice would be to politely decline, to maintain the distance we'd established. But I'd promised myself years ago to be honest, even when it was uncomfortable. And honestly, I wanted to see her again. "Emma, I'd be honored to collaborate. Let's meet and discuss the vision for the exhibition." Maya agreed to meet at the same coffee shop where we'd first accidentally encountered each other 5 years earlier. I arrived early, my stomach churning with nerves. Part of me wondered if this was Emma's way of reclaiming that space. of rewriting the narrative on her own terms. When she walked in, I barely recognized her at first. Her hair was shorter now, styled in a way that was both professional and edgy. She wore tailored pants and a blazer, but with colorful sneakers that hinted at the artist still living beneath the architect's exterior. She carried herself with a confidence I'd only seen glimpses of when we were together. Maya. She smiled, and it reached her eyes. You look good, so do you. Really good. We ordered our coffee. She still took hers with oat milk. I noticed Dan settled at a table by the window. For a moment, we just looked at each other, years of history and healing stretching between us. I heard you won the Caldwell Prize, Emma said. That's huge. Congratulations. Thank you. And I saw that your housing project in Portland was featured in Architectural Digest. That's incredible, Emma. Exactly the kind of work you always wanted to do. It feels good. I'm actually moving back to Seattle to head up a new branch of our firm. We're focusing on affordable housing and community spaces here. She paused, which is why I wanted to reach out. This exhibition is important to me. It's about showing how art and design can work together to create spaces that heal communities. Tell me more. As Emma outlined her vision, local artists creating installations that would interact with architectural models and blueprints, all exploring how creative design could address social issues. I felt the familiar spark of her passion. This was the Emma I'd fallen in love with, fully realized and uninhibited. I want you to create the centerpiece, she said. Something that captures the relationship between art and architecture, between individual expression and community needs. Why me? There are dozens of artists who could, because you understand what it means to build something on a flawed foundation and then have to rebuild it better. I felt my throat tighten. Emma, I don't know if working together is a good idea. Given our history is exactly why it's a good idea. She leaned forward. Maya, I didn't reach out to torture either of us or to reopen old wounds. I reached out because I've spent 5 years learning who I am and what I want. And what I want is to create something meaningful with someone whose talent I respect, and whose journey I understand. Just professional then, yes, she smiled slightly. I'm in a relationship actually. Her name is Sophie. She's an environmental lawyer. We've been together for 2 years. Something twisted in my chest, not quite jealousy, but a bittersweet acknowledgement of what might have been. That's wonderful. I'm happy for you, thank you. What about you? Casually dating. Nothing serious. I think I'm still figuring out how to trust myself in relationships. The honesty felt both vulnerable and necessary. Emma nodded, understanding in her expression. That makes sense. For what it's worth, I think what happened between us, as painful as it was, taught us both important lessons. I learned to trust my own judgment. You learned the cost of dishonesty. Neither of us would be who we are now without that experience. Working with Emma was both easier and harder than I expected. We met weekly to discuss the exhibition, and slowly, carefully, we rebuilt something between us. Not romance, that door had closed, but a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and shared creative vision. I learned about her life in Portland, about Sophie, who sounded amazing and exactly right for Emma, about the projects she'd worked on and the battles she'd fought to get affordable housing approved in resistant neighborhoods. She'd become a force in her field, respected and accomplished. She learned about my artistic evolution, about the solo show I'd had in New York, about the teaching position I'd accepted at the university. We talked about our family. She'd eventually come out to her mother. And while Victoria had struggled initially, they'd worked through it in therapy. She apologized, Emma told me one afternoon in my studio, for hiring you, for not being brave enough to just talk to me herself, for all of it. It took years, but we're in a good place now. I'm glad. She loves you, even if she showed it badly. I know. Emma studied the preliminary sketches I'd created for the exhibition piece. We're actually collaborating on a project together, a community center in the neighborhood where I grew up. She's funding it, I'm designing it. It feels like coming full circle. The centerpiece I created for the exhibition was called Foundation. It was a large-scale installation featuring architectural blueprints deconstructed and reconstructed with artistic elements, paint, collage, sculptural components. At its heart was the idea that you could take something broken, acknowledge its flaws, and build something stronger and more beautiful from the pieces. Emma stood in front of it the day before the opening, and I saw tears in her eyes. It's perfect, she whispered. It's exactly what I hoped for. We make a good team, I said. Professionally speaking, she laughed and bumped her shoulder against mine. Yes, we do. The exhibition was a success beyond either of our expectations. Critics praised the innovative combination of art and architecture, the way the installations sparked conversations about urban design and community building. My centerpiece was featured in several publications, and Emma's firm received multiple inquiries about projects But the moment that mattered most to me came near the end of the opening reception. I was standing in front of foundation when Emma approached with a beautiful woman, who had to be Sophie tall, with warm brown skin and intelligent eyes. Maya, this is Sophie. Sophie, this is Maya Chen, the brilliant artist I've been telling you about. Sophie shook my hand warmly. It's wonderful to finally meet you. Emma speaks so highly of your work, thank you. It's great to meet you too. There was no awkwardness, no tension. Just three adults who respected each other, navigating a complex history with grace. Later, as the crowd thinned, Emma found me alone for a moment. Thank you, she said simply, for taking a chance on this project, for being professional and kind, for creating something so beautiful. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, for forgiving me enough to reach out. I told you I forgave you years ago. She paused. But I want you to know something else. What we had back then, it wasn't just trauma or manipulation or a product of circumstance. It was real. The love was real, even if the foundation wasn't solid enough to support it. I know. And I'm grateful for it. Because you helped me become the person I am today. Yes, the ending was painful, but the journey mattered. You mattered. My eyes stung with tears. You mattered to me too. You still do. Good, she smiled. Because I'd like to keep you in my life, if that's okay. As friends, as colleagues. I value your perspective and your talent, and I think we can create more meaningful things together. I'd like that, I said honestly. Sophie appeared then, slipping her hand into Emma's. Ready to go, love? Almost. Emma looked at me one more time. Dinner next week? The three of us? I think you and Sophie would really get along. I'd love that. As I watched them leave together, Emma's hand in Sophie's, I felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't the sharp pain of loss I'd carried for years, but something gentler, acceptance, maybe. Or peace. Emma had found her happiness. She'd built a life that was authentically hers, with a partner who loved her for exactly who she was. And I'd found my own path to less certain, still evolving, but honest and true. The exhibition led to more opportunities for both of us. Emma's firm expanded, taking on increasingly ambitious projects that combined social impact with beautiful design. We collaborated on several more installations over the next few years, each one pushing both of us creatively. I did have dinner with Emma and Sophie, and then many more dinners after that. Sophie was brilliant and funny, with a sharp legal mind and a genuine passion for environmental justice. The three of us became friends, real friends, not the manufactured kind. Sometimes, late at night in my studio, I'd think about the alternate universe where I'd been honest with Emma from the beginning, where we'd built our relationship on truth instead of lies. Would we still be together? Would we have made it? I'd never know, and I'd learned to be okay with that uncertainty. What I did know was this: love, in all its forms, requires honesty to survive. Romantic love, friendship, family bonds, all of them crumble under the weight of deception, no matter how well-intentioned. I also learned that people are capable of extraordinary growth and forgiveness. Emma could have held onto her anger forever. Instead, she'd done the hard work of processing her pain, understanding the complexity of the situation, and choosing to move forward with grace. And I'd learned that redemption isn't about erasing your mistakes. It's about acknowledging them, learning from them, and doing better going forward. The $10,000 I'd been paid would always be part of my story, but it didn't have to define me. 3 years after the exhibition, I received another call from Victoria Hartwell. My first instinct was to let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. Maya, it's Victoria. I hope this isn't too presumptuous, but I have a request. I'm listening. Emma and Sophie are getting married next month. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Emma suggested I ask if you'd like to attend, and I'm extending that invitation. I understand if it's too uncomfortable, but I'd like you to be there. You're part of Emma's story, part of how she became who she is. I was quiet for a long moment. Can I think about it? Of course, but Maya, I never properly apologized to you. I put you in an impossible position 5 years ago. I was so focused on fixing my daughter that I didn't consider the ethical implications of what I was asking. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that. I did think about it, and I did attend the wedding. It was beautiful, held in a community center Emma had designed, filled with plants and natural light. Emma wore a white suit that looked stunning on her, and Sophie wore a flowing dress the color of the ocean. When Emma saw me, she broke into a huge smile and pulled me into a hug. You came, she said. Of course I came. There's someone I want you to meet. She led me over to a woman about my age with kind eyes and paint-stained hands. This is Rachel. She's a muralist, and I think you two would really hit it off. Rachel, this is Maya Chen, the artist I've been telling you about. And just like that, Emma was playing matchmaker, but this time with full transparency and genuine care. Rachel and I did hit it off. We started dating a few months after the wedding, taking things slowly, building on a foundation of honesty from day one. I told her about Emma, about the arrangement, about everything. She appreciated my transparency and shared her own complicated history. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was real. 5 years became 10. Emma and Sophie had a daughter whom they named Aurora. Emma's firm became one of the most respected in the Pacific Northwest. My art continued to evolve and Rachel and I moved in together, adopting two cats and creating a life that felt authentically ours. Victoria retired and became a patron of the arts, funding programs for young LGBTQ+ artists. She and I eventually had lunch together, just the two of us, and cleared the air completely. She told me that watching Emma thrive had taught her that control wasn't love, and that sometimes the best thing a parent can do is step back and let their child become who they're meant to be. Emma and I remained friends, good friends, the kind who could go months without talking and then pick up right where we left off. We collaborated on projects, celebrated each other's successes, and built something new from the ashes of what we'd lost. One evening, about 10 years after that first arranged meeting, in the coffee shop, Emma and I stood together at the opening of our largest collaborative project yet, a mixed-use development combining affordable housing, art studios, and community spaces. It was everything Emma had dreamed of creating, and my artwork was integrated throughout the building. We did good, she said, surveying the crowd of residents, artists, and community members celebrating together. We really did. Can I tell you something? Emma turned to face me. I used to wish that we could go back and do things differently, that we could have a version of our story where you'd been honest from the beginning, and we'd ended up together. My heart clenched. Emma, let me finish. I used to wish that, but I don't anymore. Because this version, the one we're living, it's pretty great. We're both happy. We're both with people who are right for us. And we've created something together that's going to help hundreds of people. That matters more than romance ever could have. You're right, I said, meaning it completely. This is better. Sophie and Rachel joined us then, and the four of us stood together, looking at what we'd built, not just the building, but the friends, hips, the trust, the creative partnership that had emerged from such a flawed beginning. To second chances, Emma said, raising her glass. To honesty, I added. To love in all its forms. Sophie contributed. To building something real, Rachel finished. We clinked glasses, and I felt a profound sense of peace. The story that began with $10,000 and a lie had transformed into something I never could have imagined. A network of authentic relationships, meaningful work, and genuine love. Not the love I'd thought I wanted, but the love I actually needed, and that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. I never saw Emma again after that night at the gallery, but I followed her career from a distance. She graduated top of her class and started working at a firm in Portland that specialized in sustainable community design. I saw her name attached to several notable projects: a community center in a low-income neighborhood, an affordable housing development that won design awards. She'd become everything she was meant to be, and I was genuinely happy for her. As for me, my art continued to evolve. I created more honest work, pieces that dealt with my own flaws and failures rather than pretending to be above them. Critics called my newer collections unflinchingly honest and brutally self-aware. I called them therapy. I dated here and there, but nothing serious. I was more careful now, more aware of the ethical lines I'd crossed and the importance of honesty. Even when it's uncomfortable, Victoria and I occasionally crossed paths at gallery events. We were cordial but distant. She'd sent me a card after Emma graduated, thanking me again for helping her daughter. I never responded. Some debts can't be repaid. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Sometimes, on quiet nights in my studio, I'd think about Emma, about her laugh, her passion for design, the way she looked when she finally allowed herself to be free. I'd think about how love, real and true as it was, couldn't survive the foundation of lies it was built on. I learned that you can't manufacture connection, no matter how much money you have. You can't pay someone to love your child or to help them find themselves. Those things have to happen organically, honestly, or they'll crumble under the weight of deception. But I also learned that people are more resilient than we give them credit for. Emma took the broken pieces of our relationship and used them to build something stronger within herself. She didn't let what happened destroy her, she let it teach her. That was her strength, not mine. As for me, I carried the lesson forward into everything I did. I painted with honesty. I loved with transparency, and I never, ever accepted money for something that couldn't be bought. Because I'd learned the hard way that some things, friendship, trust, love, aren't transactions. They're sacred, and once you treat them as anything less, you lose them forever. The painting from the gallery show eventually sold to a private collector. But before it shipped, I took a photo of it. I keep it on my studio wall as a reminder not of what I lost, but of what I learned. Love isn't something you can orchestrate or engineer. It's messy and complicated and requires absolute honesty to survive. And when you betray that honesty, even with good intentions, you lose something precious that can never be fully recovered. Emma taught me that. And though we're not part of each other's lives anymore, I carry her lessons with me every day. That's the real story, not about the money or the arrangement or even the love affair. It's about learning that authenticity is the only foundation worth building on. And that some prices are too high to pay, no matter how broke you are. I hope Emma knows that. I hope she's happy, and I hope that somewhere out there, she's designing beautiful spaces that bring people together, creating the connections and communities she always dreamed of. As for me, I'm still painting, still trying to capture truth on canvas. And every piece I create starts with the same promise: absolute honesty. No matter how uncomfortable. It's the least I can do.